Hey YouTube, this is Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters, here for LinuxMusicStudio.com, and today I have a pretty cool tutorial for you. This one's going to be about how to sample a synthesizer within Audacity and then later use those sounds in a DAW within Linux. So we're going to go ahead and do that here in a minute, but what I wanted to say first is thank you to my patrons who've been going to the Patreon page and checking it out. And if you want to do that yourself and you want to support these kind of videos, check out patreon.com/LinuxMusicStudio. So let's go ahead and get to it. And what I want to do actually is make a sample set out of this Casio CZ101. And these are really cool synths, and I just love the sounds of them. And even the presets are pretty cool and useful. So I want to record some of those presets and make those into something that I can just have on the computer and use whenever I want without having to hook up the synth. And what you're going to need to do something like this, first off, is an audio interface. And the one I'm going to be using is the Behringer UCA202. I've talked about this interface quite a bit on my channel because I think it is really, really good. These things are only like 30 or 40 bucks. They're really cheap. They just have a basic audio in and out RCAs. There's also an optical output, which I've actually never used on this situation. And then it also has a real-time hardware monitor switch right here. What that means is you can plug into it and then hear what you're plugged in without going through the computer first. So it'll just basically, it's a loop back that goes right to the output, but it doesn't change anything else. So if you want to get real-time monitoring, you can do that on these. Now, another thing you'll need if you are going to use one of these interfaces, well, it depends on what you're actually recording. Let me just show you here first. On the actual CZ synth, the outputs, we have a couple of options here. Well, really only one option that's usable, and that is the line out jack. And that's a stereo, or it's not a stereo, it's mono, sorry. It's just a mono 1/4 inch jack. And then there's also a headphone output, but you don't really want to use that if you're recording, unless that's the, certain cheap keyboards, that's the only option you really have. But the impedance on headphone outputs will generally give you a too hot of an output to do like quality recording, and it'll end up being noisy. So you want to use a line out if you have one. And what I'm going to be using to connect it is just a regular guitar patch cable, which is a 1/4 inch cable. And then I have this little adapter right here, which adapts 1/4 inch on one end to male RCA on the other end. So I'm just going to plug that in on one of these, and then on this side I'm going to plug into one of the inputs on the UCA202. Now you may have an interface that has a 1/4 inch input already, or your synth might have a totally different output. It might have RCA outs. If it's something old, it might have, most of the time they're going to have 1/4 inch, but you may have an interface that has 1/4 inch inputs, XLR, and blah blah blah. But if you don't have one yet, and you're just looking for something that's inexpensive and good, I do recommend one of these. And I'll post a link to the UCA202 down below, and you can pick one up. So what I'm going to do now is actually switch over to the screen capture. We'll go within Audacity so you can see what I'm going to do now. Okay, so here we are in Audacity, and let me just talk about a couple of things here that I have going on before we even do this. And one, I'm using Jack for the audio driver, which you can see right here running in the background. I have my Jack audio connection kit going, and I have a pretty complicated setup just because I'm recording a microphone as well, using multiple interfaces and all that stuff. So don't worry about that. If you're interested in learning how to do that, I do have a video on that as well. So just check out my other videos on how to, you can search through them and just check out how to use multiple interfaces within Jack, and you'll find that. So, okay, so I set my audio driver to Jack right here, our audio host within Audacity. And to get a level in Audacity, all you need to do is just click this little bar right here. And now let me play a note on the keyboard. Turn it on first. And there you can see I'm getting a level. And let me make sure that I am recording in mono first. I don't want to record in stereo because yeah, it's already on mono, so we can see that right here. Recording device system 1 channel mono. And if I record it in stereo, then I just have one side of the file will be blank, so we don't want to do that. Now also, okay, let me just go over a little bit of the concept of this. When you sample a keyboard, basically the way I do it, I mean, there's some people that go really, really crazy and sample every single note on the keyboard, and then later when they go into their program or their sampler that they're using, then they map every single individual note. Now, to me, that just takes way too long, and I don't even think it's necessary because, well, it depends on the sampler that you're using, sampling software, and I'll show you a couple of different situations. But what I normally do, or almost always do, is I just sample the C's, the C notes on the keyboard, and that really tends to work fine for me. And let me just pull this up here, and you can see we have the lowest C is right there, and the next C. If you don't know the C, it's easy to find it. It's just the note that's right before the 2 black keys. If you have 3 black keys, that's not the C. So you can just, count your notes up. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And you can see the next C right there. So we have C, 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 and then C. So this keyboard is not very big, so there's not that very many to sample. And the first sound that you heard there is just the #1 brass ensemble preset that comes on almost all of the Casio CZ synths, as far as I know. And I'm just going to go ahead and press record. Let me check the level again. Let's click that. And level looks pretty good. Could maybe be a little higher. I can just turn up the level on the keyboard itself. And I like the Behringer interface for sampling keyboards because I think it's very clean. And it doesn't have any microphone preamps in it. So if you're sampling a keyboard or a synthesizer, you don't need a microphone preamp. And a lot of times that can actually color the sound. So with the UCA 202, it's just a regular line level input. And that's perfect for recording synths. So, all right, so we have a level. Let's go ahead and record. And why isn't it recording? What happened here? Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and record. And then I'm just going to keep doing every C note on the keyboard. All right, now let's just go ahead and press stop. Now, if I wanted to do more, different presets, I could just switch the preset, and just go through each one. But I'm not going to do that just for this video. I just want to, keep it quick. But you get the idea. So now we have all of these C's for the brass ensemble. And what I'm going to do now is, first off, I'm just going to highlight the whole thing. Oops, don't want to do that. Let's put our volume back down to 0. And, okay, so we just want to double-click the wave there and highlight the whole waveform. And now I'm just going to go to Effect and then just go to Amplify. And that's automatically going to calculate what the maximum level it can be without it clipping. And just click OK. And now it raised all of that. Now let's just hear some of this back. Okay, and they look pretty good. Now, you may be wondering, too, and I'll get into some more of this, when we actually have it in the sampler, and you'll see what's going on. But since this sound, it doesn't sustain on its own, or it doesn't decay on its own. It just sustains indefinitely when you hold it down. So you just want to record enough to be able to create loop points later on. And what I mean by that is you can see these little peaks and valleys here. And when we're in the sampler, we're going to create a loop point. So that way when you hold down a note, it doesn't just abruptly stop. But we'll go through that here in a little bit. First off, we're just going to take all of the notes themselves, and then we're just going to highlight them. If you zoom in a little bit too, you can get a better view as to, that's too much, as to what you're actually highlighting there. And you want to make sure to get it right on the beginning. And the end can be a little less, well, it just depends on the sound. If you're doing a sound that has sustain or a decay, you want to make sure to get, you know, all of the end on there. But this one, it's not really as important. So what I'm going to do now is actually just go to File and then Export, and then go to Export as, oh, sorry. We're going to go to Export Selected Audio. And then I'm going to select a location. So let's put this on my external drive, which is, where is it? Oh, that's right. Oh, there it is. Okay. There's something weird with some of the, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but the snap packages in Ubuntu have some bizarre permission problems, which this may or may not happen here. We'll see. But let's go ahead and I'm going to put this, I usually put all of my samples in a folder here that's just called sound fonts, even though this isn't going to be a sound font, but I just keep them all in there. So let's go ahead and make a new folder, and we'll do CZ samples, and then we're just going to call this one brass ENS C1. And then we're going to keep this as a WAV file, not an MP3. We want it to be a WAV. And then it's just click Save. And that's going to export. You don't have to worry about tagging it or anything. It's going to export that, just that selected section. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do that to all of the rest here. All right, and then let's go to Export Selected Audio again. This one we're going to change to C2. Just keep going down the line. C5. And that's all we have. And now I can just turn that off because I'm not going to need it anymore. And you don't really need to save the Audacity file, but in case you want to go back to it and make some changes, it's a good idea to do that. So let's just go ahead and save the project. And then let's put this where? We're going to put this in my Audacity folder, which is in my recordings. And then Audacity, we'll just call it CZ samples. And save that there. Okay, so now on to the next stage. We can close Audacity. And I'm going to open up Traction Waveform 9. We're going to open up, let's open up this project that I started a while ago in my last video about traction. And let's see, I think I have, you know, I'm going to close my face because I don't need it there. All right, so the plugin that I'm going to use here in Waveform 9 is called Multi-Sampler, and this comes with Waveform 9. It's a very cool sampling plugin, and it's super easy to use. So all we have to do is find those files that we worked on here a little bit ago. And where are they? CZ samples right here. And you can hear those right there. So let's just select all of these and drag them into this area. Now, you can see all of the different samples here on the left. And what we want to do is select the zones on the keyboard that those are going to be assigned to. So to do that, we just click on Zones, and then C1 we're going to put down here in the one area. So we just drag this over, and you can see the number 1 there. It's really little, but let's go ahead and put that there. So and then C2, we're going to do the same thing, except just that one is going to go, oh, I did this wrong actually. C1 should be all the way up to, oops, shoot, all the way up to C2. Then C2 is going to start here. Then C3 will start here at the 3, and then C4 is going to start at 4, and then C5 will start at 5. Now we also want to make sure that we're not overlapping, so let's go back to C2 and bring that down. C3, bring that down. C4 and C5. All right, so once we have our zones assigned correctly, if we play the keyboard, we'll notice that it doesn't quite sound right for some reason. Let's hear this. Now hear how low, it's like going super low and super high, like way too quickly on the keyboard. So to fix this, what we need to do is actually go back to the sound sample itself, and we have to tell the sampler what note this is supposed to be. So let's change the C4 to a C1. And that's really easy to do. You just drag it down. And let's go to the C2. Change that to a C2. And same thing on the C3. And not all samplers you'll have to do this. It just depends how it's configured. You may have to do it a little bit different way. Oops, that one was already right. Let's go back to C4. And then C5, we're going to change to C5. Now this should sound correct. And it does. And okay, so the next thing we want to change now is we notice how if I hold down that note, eventually it's going to just stop because it reaches the end of the sample. So the way to fix that is just to create a loop here like I was talking about before. And to do that, we just click this little loop button. And now we're just going to drag these faders, or not faders, but these markers to where we want that loop to actually start and end. So the best way to do it, remember I was talking about before about the peaks and valleys, just find a valley and start the loop there and then end it in another valley. So let's play that back and hear how that sounds. Oh wait, which one am I on? C5? Okay, so let's play that back. And you can notice it a little bit. So sometimes you might want to, sometimes you could try doing a peak rather than a valley. And let's hear that. And that's much better. And okay, so now all you have to do is just go through the rest of them and find where you're going to, oops, you don't want to change that because that'll change your start point. And let's just set our loop points on the rest of these. Man, that one's not very good. So let's try. Now, a lot of these, even if you hear a little tiny little sound, a lot of times in the music you're not going to hear that, so it doesn't really matter that much. And also, sometimes even if you do hear it, sometimes that can create kind of a cool effect. So it's not always, you don't have to worry about perfection all the time, because that's a lot of people's problem these days in music, is they don't let happy accidents happen because it's so easy to fix things. Happy accidents can actually be quite beneficial. Like I'm going to go ahead and leave that. It doesn't bother me. Oh, wait, what happened to 1? We didn't do 1 yet. Did 3. No, still need to do 3. And 4 we already did, and 5 we already did. So that's what you do. There you have it. All you have to do really is repeat the process of everything that I showed you. And, you know, it's easier to do all of the sampling all at once. Just have all of that done, and then you can export all of your samples. And then you can import them into whatever sampler you're using. Now, another thing that you can use this for, and another one of the examples I wanted to show you, let me just go ahead and save this first. Eventually, I'm going to get back to this project. Oops. At some point. So let's go ahead and get out of Traction for now. You saw how to do it in there. And the next thing we're going to do it in is Milkytracker. So let's go ahead and open up Milkytracker here. And now what we're going to do, let me make sure I'm running in Jack here. I think I am. Yeah, okay. So we're going to go into our sample section, and we're going to load. Let's just go ahead and load this one that we just did. And the browser in Milkytracker is a little bit weird to figure out what's going on. Sometimes looking at this drives me crazy. I don't even know where I am right now. Parent. And that's not what I want. I think it's in here. Yeah, there it is. Sound fonts. And there's my CZ samples. Okay, so here, I'm just going to load my C2 into here. And let's go ahead and play some of this back. And hold on, I need to connect Milkytracker to okay. Why don't I hear it? Oh, because I'm not in there. There we go. All right, so now the reason why I just use C2 is if you're using a tracker, a lot of times you're not going to have mapping to certain keys, although Milkytracker does do that. But you don't have to use it really. A lot of times when I'm doing tracking, I don't actually map to all the keys. I just use one C because I like actually the low fineness of like really stretching a note low, like it like gives the sample this sort of I don't know, this lo-fi sound if you just stretch it rather than do perfect samples for every single range. And okay, so here if we go to sample edit, which is right here, we can do the same thing with the loop points. So we're just going to do a forward loop, or you can do a bidirectional loop, which sometimes sounds a little bit better. And we're just going to select our loop points. Okay, that's the bidirectional. Let's try forward. Try it on the peaks. Oh, there we go. Wow, that's like perfect, actually. All right, so there's another example of how to do that in Milkytracker. And the last one I wanted to talk about, don't really need to save that, is LMMS, because I know a lot of people use LMMS. And actually, I don't know if this is even configured yet on this system. We'll see. And let's go ahead and tell it to use Jack. And it may make me want to restart, yeah. So hold on, I restart it. Go back into LMMS. And are we getting a level here? Let me see. Okay, so it shows up in Jack. That should be good. All right, so in LMMS, LMMS has a wave file player plugin. So doing this in LMMS is a little bit basic. You don't really have a lot of features unless you're using a different sampling plugin, but it does work in LMMS. It actually works a little bit better for drums than it does for synth sounds, but you can still do it. I do it all the time. So all you have to do is just find the synth sound that you have, you sample, and then you can just drag it over to either the beat or bass line area or the song area, depending on how you want to use it. If we open this up, we can hear. And to set the root note in LMMS, you just drag this little slider. The only problem with LMMS, I wish it told you what note that was on, because it really doesn't. You just sort of have to see that there's C5 there, C4 here. So we're just going to put it down here around C3. I think that's what that was, right? Yeah, C3. I mean, it tells you the C's, so I guess that's all that's important. And that's pretty much it. You can do looping too. You just highlight this, and then you can set your loop points. And then the cool thing too about LMMS, the sample processors, it has all these little built-in effects areas, and you can also do like arpeggios and stuff, which is pretty neat. So we could turn this on to random. Which all that stuff is pretty darn cool. You can do stacking. But anyway, you get the idea. And that just shows you how easy it actually is to record a sample within Audacity and then use it across multiple programs and different samplers. And, you know, all this, I actually really like working this way. I almost prefer it to sampling real hardware synths than using plugins. For one reason is it actually uses a lot less processing power. So if you're using a slower computer, then you're not eating up all the processing power on plugins for the synth sounds, because some of them can actually eat up quite a bit. But this one, you know, doing it this way, you're actually saving a lot of your power to use on effects and other things like that. And it's easier than actually hooking up the synths and plugging them in. So it's nice. All the synths I have, well, with the exception of this CZ, I've been wanting to make sample set of this for a while, but I just haven't yet until today. But most of the synths I have, I already have sample sets recorded for them, so I don't even really have to hook them up to my system to use them, which is nice, you know, because I live in a small apartment. But yeah, that's pretty much all, and hopefully you enjoyed this video and you learned something. And if you did, feel free to let me know. And once again, check out my Patreon page if you can. It's just patreon.com/LinuxMusicStudio. And sorry I've been a little bit slow on uploads lately, but I'm trying to get back into that. I was a little bit busy with my day job, and that was taking up a lot of my time. So anyway, here I am again, and hopefully I'll be uploading more this week, and you guys will see some more content. And I will be doing another traction tutorial pretty soon, as well as some more product reviews. So stay tuned for those. And once again, thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great weekend. Maniac.